Welcome, guys. So, in this week in Shul, we're going to be reading about the Machs Shekel. The Machs Shekel were collected from the Yidden. Every person above 20 would give a half a shekel. And like this, they were able to count the Yidden. But the Machs Shekel wasn't just about counting, it was actually given towards the communal offerings. With that, everyone was a participant in the communal offerings, which obviously we know that Korbanos affect the world tremendously, as we'll learn more in this mimer. So everyone was part of being an effect in this world, starting from the base of Mikdash, in reality, starting from themselves, giving a half a shekel. Now, the Torah, when it's describing giving the machzor shekel, it says something interesting. It says everyone who should give a half a shekel from the holy shekel, which is 20 gera. Everyone should give a half a shekel, which is a half a shekel truma. I never pointed to something interesting. When describing where the shekel comes from, it's a half a shekel from the 20 shekel, from the 20 ger that's a shekel. It describes the 20 ger, the complete shekel, as holy, the holy 20 ger. Versus when it describes the actual shekel being given over, it doesn't use the description as holy. And never says, isn't the giving of the shekel holy? Wouldn't you call that the holiness when you actually give it to Hashem? What is this? No, when you give it to Hashem, it's called truma. Versus when we're describing it, it's called a holy shekel. The 20 ger together are holy shekels. So everyone says to appreciate this. Let's take off. Let's enter into a tunnel. Let's enter into a different discussion where really it's in the same discussion where we're just going to discuss where does the machzor shekel go. It goes towards the karbanis. It goes towards the offerings that were offered at the base of Mikdash. And there it says practically now, in our days where unfortunately we don't have the base of Mikdash may be rebuilt very soon, right now. The Rebbe says we don't have those karbanis. So what do we have instead? We have davening. So the half a shekel goes towards karbanis, which in our days it spiritually goes towards davening. And the Rebbe says, what is davening? Well, the Zohar tells us that davening is actually based off Malchus is yearning. In other words, Hashem has 10 spheres, and one of the spheres is Malchus. And up in heaven, Malchus yearns for the Eibishter. Malchus has a great yearning. And just like Malchus has a great yearning, so too Hashem, so too we daven, we have this great yearning. So the Rebbe goes on to say is, what's going on? What does it mean Malchus has a great yearning? Isn't Malchus part of the 10 spheres in Atzilus? Don't we describe the 10 spheres of Atzilus as right? Even the Kalim, not just the Iris are one with Hashem, right? Not just the Iris are described as one with Hashem. Even the Kalim. So what is this? Malchus is yearning. Malchus is desiring more. Isn't Malchus one with the Eibishter? So the Rebbe says is let's go into another. Let's enter a new idea to understand this. And the Rebbe says is in I think it's Tehillim. In Tehillim, let's look quickly. Yes, it's in Tehillim. The Rebbe, David HaMelech says, Eibishter, with you is the source of life. With you is the source of life. The Rebbe asks, 1 second, isn't Hashem the source of life? So the Rebbe explains that yes, Hashem is a source of life, but there's many tzimtzumim. In other words, if Hashem was just to create from himself, from his essence, we wouldn't have a world with many different things, many different details, many different aspects. We would have just the Eibishter. That's literally what we'd have. We wouldn't call it a world. It'd just be Eibishter. There's the Eibishter and the, right? If you go and touch the sun, there's not going to be you and the sun. It's just going to be the sun, right? Anyone gets too close to the sun just gets absorbed. So if anything coming from Atzmos, it's not going to be the world and Atzmos. It's just going to be Atzmos, right? So what happens is Hashem makes tzimtzumim because he wants to have a world that is compartmentalized with many different things, has many different aspects. Now, the Rebbe points out, yeah, obviously, Atzmos, Hashem can do whatever he wants, but the Eibishter wants that a world should be somewhat in a systematic, logical way. And therefore, he creates many, many tzimtzumim. But practically, what does it mean when we say Hashem with you is the source of life? What this practically means is that Hashem with you is Malchus that breaks down, gives a ray of you that makes life as it is, life in this world as it is, existable, right? So with you is the source of life. And that being said, now we can appreciate Malchus is in a state of creating. Malchus is in a state of creating something outside of the Eibishter. So even first when it's in Atzilus, it's already in a state of pushing outwards. It's already in a state of thinking outside of the context. And how much more so when it's actually creating the world, it's in a state of creation, it's a state of separation, so to say. And therefore, Malchus is feeling very separate. Malchus is feeling that it's not in its full capacity. And therefore, Malchus is yearning for something more, wanting the Eibishter with a great, great desire. And saying to our davening comes from that. Why? Yes, our neshama is mamish, a piece of Atzmas, mamish, a piece of Hashem. But practically speaking, we were gifted this opportunity of being put in a body, put together with an Nefesh Bahamas. And that being so, we don't always feel in touch with that. Baruch Hashem, one of my friends just had a baby, and they're asking why do we have a Shalom Zachar, and the reason we have a Shalom Zachar is because the baby was just in the mother's stomach and learning with a malach and having the ultimate, so to say, Gan Eden. And then it comes out into this world, and you're like, what would I do with this world? I mean, everything was perfect when I was in the womb. I was taken care of, nurtured spiritually, physically. It's a very hard hit. And what we do is we come together and we say, just, Yidden being together, saying l'chaim, making a bracha, having Avos Yisrael, being excited. That gives the Eibishter lots and lots of nachas, right? So what happens is there's a lot to do in this world, but practically speaking, it's very scary coming to this world. And even if it's not scary, because you have the Eibishter and you love the Eibishter, you want more of the Eibishter, you're very excited about the Eibishter, so there's still a yearning, there's a davening. So even though you're chelik el-kamim al-mamish, there's still a desire for more, and that's where we daven. And that's where davening comes from. And just to take it to a side note, it's very important to take life and, constantly reassess what you're doing with your life. Obviously not too much, the Friedrich Rebbe says, tshuva is like medicine. If you take too much or at the wrong time, it's not helpful. So you don't want to overthink your life, but you do want to constantly be mindful of what's going on. And one of the things we spend a nice part of our life is davening. In fact, halavai, we should be davening constantly. So it's when we hear different ideas of what davening is, it's good to pause and say, ooh, that's another aspect of davening, right? Basic davening is you have needs, go and ask Hashem for help. Hashem wants to be in a relationship where when you have needs, you speak to him. And what happens is here, it's describing that one of the parts of davening is getting in touch with your yearning, or it's a expression of your yearning. So it's just something to think about. And ask yourself, what could I do to nurture that yearning? What could I do to be more in touch with that yearning? What could I do to hopefully get it to sprout out of itself? And that's what, obviously what we're trying to gain by learning Chassidus. Before davening, we're trying to create a certain awareness of how present the Eibishter is, how much he's in our life, and hopefully sit with that thought to the point where we start wanting the Eibishter more. So practically what we're saying is, what is, just the flow of the mimer, we're saying is, what is a machzah shekel? Why is it calling the shekel, the whole entire shekel, Kodesh? So he said, let's understand what is the machzah shekel. It goes towards karbanis, right? And these days karbanis is davening. And what is davening? Davening represents malchus, yearning for Eibishter, saying to us, we are yearning for Eibishter, we wanting more, and obviously want to nurture that part of ourselves. And David says, this is actually what karbanis is. What is a karban? You're giving of yourself. You're bringing your talents and your different desires close to Hashem. You're inviting the Eibishter inside of them, right? So a lot of times people are, they take their talents are their talents, and their shul times are shul time. Their religion is one area of their life, and their talents and work life is something else. And that's not what we're here to do. We're here to bring into our talents the Eibishter. We're here to involve the Eibishter in our talents, to reveal how everything we have going for us is from the Eibishter. And how do you do that? Do that by, first of all, skafia. Do that by, first of all, pausing and saying let's not come from a place of habitual, and let's not come from a place of this is natural to me, or this is my natural skill. Rather, let's slow down and see the Eibishter in it. Let's not eat just for the sake of eating. Let's not eat just because it tastes good. Let's invite the Eibishter. Let's slow down. Let's first of all pause. Let's bend ourselves. Let's reclaim our talents, reclaim our desires, and invite the Eibishter. So that's bring our kaichas closer. And what do we do? What do we gain by that? Well, first of all, we gain is we brought the Eibishter in it. There's obviously many psychological gains, but we're inviting the Eibishter. And what happens when we invite the Eibishter? The Eibishter starts coming down and he starts giving us. So on one level, we brought ourselves close to the Eibishter, and because we brought ourselves close to the Eibishter, he starts flowing down brachas. Another deeper level of this is um, as we come closer to the Eibishter, we start being able to be godly. We start being able to be the Eibishter and other things in life. You know, we're in a Neshama. We're supposed to be God. We're supposed to be Ner Nishma Sadam. We're supposed to be the candle of Hashem. So how do you, by bringing yourself closer, you are the candle. You are the bracha in people's lives. So that is the idea of Karbanis. That is the idea of davening. Bring ourselves closer to, first of all, when we bring ourselves closer, we can bring them brachas, or bring ourselves closer to start being the bracha. Now, the Rebbe goes on to say is that what's interesting is karbanes are dafka given to human beings, and specifically Yidden. And the reason being is because what are we getting by the carbon? We're arousing something in Hashem, and Hashem is coming down to us. Why would we ever arouse something in Hashem? Why would we do would ever matter to a being that's so great? Right? The Eibishter is the Eibishter. Hashem is Hashem. Like what does it matter what we do? And the answer is that and the answer is that we actually through our kabbanis create this relationship. What does that mean? It says karbanis were given specifically to Adam. Why are we called Adam? Because we're similar to above, Adma le'elyon, right? And the Rebbe says this, but why are we similar to above? We say, you know, Hashem is not a man, right? When the Navi wants to describe that, you know, Hashem is not forgetful, he says he's not a man, so he's not an Adam. So what do you mean we're similar to the Adam above? So the Rebbe explains this. Yeah, you're right. The Eibishter is nothing like us, but the same way we have 613 parts of our body, 248 limbs, 300 and something sinews. When we do Torah mitzvahs, we create in the Eibishter a form. We don't make the Eibishter into form, but we create a form, a pipeline, there's a computer word for this. Interface. There's an interface. We create an interface where the Eibishter gives us. So we create that form. So our Torah mitzvahs, when we put in tefillin, we create the form of that limb, that mitzvah, and slowly we create the Adam above. So the answer is Hashem's not like us, but because he chooses us, because he chooses to care about what we're doing, we kind of make above similar to us. So Adam, we're similar to above is because we create that. So the Rebbe says, okay, nice. So we create this relationship. We create this Adam le'elyon. That's why we're called Adam. Very, very nice. But in another medrash, why are we called Adam? Medrash says, because when Adam Rishon was created, the Malachim were a bit jealous. Hashem, why are you giving Adam Rishon so much special attention? So the Eibishter says, because he has Chachma. He has special wisdom that is not in your league. He said, what do you mean? He says, well, go tell me the name of every animal. And they said, like, I don't know. And Adam Rishon, they said, Adam Rishon, come tell us the name of every animal. And Adam Rishon was able to give every animal, every creation a name based on their purpose, based on their essence. So when it got to himself, the Eibishter said, and what should we name you? He said, we should name me Adam because I'm from the earth, from the Adama. So the Rebbe says, like, you're telling me Adam was given the Karbanis, Adam has a relationship with the Eibishter because he's similar to above, Adma le'elyon. Another message, another source in Torah clearly says he was called Adam because he's from the earth. He's a humble being. He has a humble beginning. So the Rebbe says, okay, slow down. His humble being might be the source of his brachos. He says, oh yeah? He says, because it says in Tehillim that the Eibishter hangs around with the most humble. So the Rebbe says, okay, that's nice. But if we were to describe that the Eibishter hangs around with the most humble, we describe him coming from the afar, from the dust, not from Adam, from Adama. Adama is actually earth that is moist, earth that has water inside. It says there's four names for the earth, and it's called Adama during Tishrei time because Tishrei time it's when it's wet. And in fact, that's why Adam was created from moisty water. So the Rebbe says this. So it can't be because this trait that a human has the ability to be humble. It has to be something else why it's called Adam. So to appreciate this, we have to appreciate what is water, what is earth. So the Rebbe says there's this famous teaching that earth represents revealed creations, and water represents the creations that are more in touch with godliness, more in touch with how much Hashem's everywhere, that they can never not be bittul to Hashem, right? Just like water creations, they're totally given over to the water. They don't even think about leaving. In fact, the ones that do think of leaving, the more, like whales and sea lions, they're more earthy versus you have something that's totally like 90 something percent water, like jellyfish who are 90 something percent water. They can't leave the water. They leave the water, they're dead. So it represents a spiritual aspect of being totally given over, totally buttled to the Abishur. So the Rebbe says, what is water? Water represents the idea of being totally given over to Abishur. So what is earth and water? It's a mixture of the two. And the Rebbe says this is what the human's mission is. The human's mission is, our mission is to mix water into the earth. In other words, you have a full world, and the full world is constantly saying, I. Everything in the world is self-centered. And they're seeing everything from their perspective. And what's our mission is to reveal a godly perspective, an encompassing perspective, a perspective that's all God. And everything has its place, and everything has its purpose, and everything should behave in line with God's will. And that's our mission. And the Rebbe says, yes, you might ask, 1 second, what's the purpose of man if it already was a creation before man? The answer is that was a jump start, similar to heaven was similar to Adam before Adam started this Avodah. But then it was dependent on us to do Avodah. Same to, yes, the world started, there was a mixture of water and earth. But what is our mission? Our mission is to add bittul into the world. So yes, we are similar to above by adding bittul. So why are we called Adam? Because we're similar to above, which in this Bible we described as we create the above. We create that pipeline, that interface. And why are we called Adam? Because our mission is to not only be similar to above, but to do that in this world, to create that this world should be like above. This world should be revealed godliness. In fact, it says in the Medrash points out that says, and there was no person to work the land. This is at the beginning of creation. The Torah describes there's no person to create the land until Hashem created Adam Rishon. And the Medrash points out there was no person like Eliyahu Hanavi. Saying you could have chose like any other tzaddik, any other hero. Why you choose Eliyahu Hanavi to describe there was no person on the land like Eliyahu Hanavi? And the Rebbe says, because what was Eliyahu Hanavi's avodah? His avodah was to push away the shtos and get everybody to say Havayahu Elokim, Havayahu Elokim. That's Eliyahu's role. What is Havaya Elokim? Havaya Elokim once is to reveal that everything you're seeing seems like they're all separate things, seeming like they're all separate masters, own gods. And no, it's all the Eibishter. So it's a certain level of acknowledging that everything comes from Havaya. Hashem is constantly, you're in God's world. But there's a higher level. The second level of Havaya Elokim is to actually not only see it in perspective, but to experience it, to see it everywhere, that the only thing there is God. Like we said that you can have through davening, you feel you brought yourself to Hashem and now Hashem brings brachas. Or you could bring yourself to Hashem and like this, you're bringing out godliness because you're an expression of that. So one level is to see, to a person's mission, our mission, my mission, your mission is to bring Havaya Elokim, to have everyone see that the Havaya is everything. A deeper level is to bring that as an experience fully, and that's going to happen fully when Mashiach comes. And he says, this is the avodah of korbanos, this is the avodah of davening, is bring ourselves closer, bring everything in our lives closer, right? Now, in korbanos, there was a time in the period in the Mishkan where the Mizbeach was made out of earth, made out of Adama. But then when they went into Eretz Yisrael, they made it out of stone. And the idea is before we're describing earth as being bittul, but earth could also be describing moist, having our own life involved in stuff. Versus a stone it's something set, it's stone. And the Rebbe says this is a difference between serving Hashem with Kabbalah soil and serving Hashem with our own perspective, right? It's moist, it bends here, it bends there. There's the way I think it should be, the way Hashem should think it should be. Then there's the way this is what the Eibishter wants. So the Rebbe says like this. Based on what we're describing is what is Machzah Shekel? Machzah Shekel is you taking of yourself and bringing yourself up to the Eibishter because it's going for Kabbanis. In fact, it's also tzedakah. We know tzedakah is tearing, it's giving from your hard-earned earnings or your potential pleasures, and you're giving it to the Eibishter. It's a carbon. It's a real carbon. So what is Machzah Shekel? It's us giving ourselves up to the Eibishter. Us turning ourselves from being a me man to a godly man. From a me to what's the Eibishter want. And the Rebbe says, in this, there's two levels. There's me giving myself up with my 10 spheres, which is powerful, which is amazing. But there's still a me and the way I see it, and I'm giving that over to Hashem. And then there's a higher level of 10 spheres, the higher level of the Machzah Shekel, which this is having Kabbalah Sar. And this is now we can appreciate why a half a shekel is not considered holy, but a full shekel is considered holy. Because everybody has to give a Machzah Shekel. Everyone has to give their 10 spheres over to the Eibishter. But what makes it holy is when I give up not only my 10 spheres, but my 10 spheres that are hidden. In other words, I come from a place of Kabbalah, so I come from a place of, listen, I don't know what's going on. That's all what the Eibishter wants. Now, the Eibishter wants me to understand, so I'm going to go give myself over on a conscious way, on an understanding way, on a heartfelt way. But not because it makes sense to me, but rather the platform is, the grounding is, I'm the Eibishter's man. And now I'm going to do my part to use all my parts, which is understanding, heartful, present. So what makes our giving over to Hashem, a life of giving over to Hashem, a life of connecting to Hashem, holy? That's when we start off with Kabbalah Sal. That's when we have the full shekel. But practically, what are you giving? It's constantly the 10 spheres to your half a shekel. So always being involved in God's work. Always be involved in giving yourself up to the Eibishter. And try your best to come from a place of Kabbalah Sal, because that makes it holy. Now the Rebbe ends off saying something very, very powerful. He says, the rich man can't give more than a half a shekel, the poor man can't give less. And why is that? It's because everyone has 10 spheres. And the Rebbe says there's no poor person, only in perspective. What does that mean here? So my understanding is the Rebbe is saying like this. You might start saying that you have more than 10 spheres. You have more to give. And the answer is give your full self. And that's what everyone has. Now you might come and say, I'm poor. I don't have these 10 spheres. I don't have what it takes to be given over to the Eibishter. And there says that's a perspective. I'm inviting you to realize it's a perspective. I'm inviting you to realize that if the Eibishter created you, you have this. And he wants you to be his messenger to the world, which obviously demands you being given over to it. So l'chaim, we should be given over to Eibishter, doing the Eibishter's Torah mitzvahs, and being able to do it from level Kabbalah Sal. And we're not doing from Kabbalah Sal also to be able to do it. And we should be able to actually give our half a shekel with Mashiach to the Beis Mikdash right now. Zachar Abba.